Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest in Native CDFI Network's ongoing webinar series, where most Fridays in the afternoon, at least if you're Eastern time in the afternoon, we host informative conversations on policy and related issues that impact Native community development financial institutions across the country. Today, it's my great honor to welcome to the Native CDFI Network community, Kathryn Isom-Clause. Kathryn is Deputy Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, where she oversees policy and economic development issues and programs. She is from the Taos Pueblo in New Mexico, and prior to coming on into her current position, she served for about 5 years as Vice Chair of the National Indian Gaming Commission. And then previous to that, she served as Senior Counselor to the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs at Interior, where she chaired interagency working groups on sacred sites and homelessness and advising on gaming matters and tribal homelands restoration. Before joining the federal government, she also provided legal advice and representation to tribal clients on a wide range of federal Indian law and policy issues important in Indian country. So Kathryn, welcome, and it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate that very kind introduction. I am filling in today for Wiza Pangaria, our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, who would have loved to be here with you. I know he was looking forward to it and really tried to juggle things around to be here, but was called away at the kind of last minute. So maybe he can join you on a future panel. But I'm happy to be here, and I have some of the points that he wanted to make as well in remarks for you. So I gather we have time today for me to provide remarks and then some Q&A or open discussion. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all as well. And I guess I'll go right ahead. All right. As you all know, the department has an important trust responsibility to support tribes and tribal governments in protecting their people, land, assets, and resources. This responsibility includes supporting and promoting economic development in American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian communities to support prosperity, meaningful livelihoods, and self-sufficient and sustainable economies. As you know, Indian country is unique and diverse, with different historical, geographic, and socioeconomic circumstances, and of course, varying regulatory, financial, and business capacities. The economies of Indian country in many ways mirror the larger economy. Tribes and tribally owned enterprises and individual entrepreneurs are industry leaders in a wide variety of sectors, including manufacturing, hospitality, tourism, anything from farming, IT, entertainment, finance, and many more. We know that tribes today and tribal entrepreneurs operate ranches, own energy development enterprises, provide federal services, create art, and contribute to the economy in every imaginable way. At the Department of the Interior, we're working to carry out important priorities related to economic development in Indian country. We're taking steps to facilitate the ability of tribes to engage in economic development initiatives through grant programs, technical assistance, and other endeavors, and ensure that tribes have access to broadband and other infrastructure as they build that out. So I'd like to talk a bit about our Office of Indian Economic Development and some of the programs and grants we offer through that. The Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Indian Economic Development provides technical assistance, training, and funding to assist tribes and tribal members with starting and sustaining their businesses, bringing ideas to marketplace, and taking advantage of government and private procurement opportunities. Through these efforts, we provide tribal business owners avenues to address the lack of access to credit and limited economic opportunities that we know exist in many American Indian and Alaska Native communities. So OID primarily fulfills that work in 3 interconnected ways by providing access to capital, grants, and technical assistance. So access to capital is within our Office of Indian Economic Development's Division of Capital Investment. Sorry for all of the, try not to use the acronyms, say the whole program, it's kind of a word soup that way. So they deliver the Indian Loan Guarantee and Insurance Program, what we call ILPG. This program provides federally recognized tribes, corporations, and tribal members secure conventional business financing on terms comparable to the non-Indian business community by guaranteeing or ensuring up to 90% of outstanding loan principal and interest. That program works with lenders and their borrowers to help applicants meet the reasonable prospect of repayment standard required for guarantee and insurance approvals. Loans must have a positive economic impact on a tribe or tribal service area, but can otherwise be used for nearly any business purpose, from real estate, equipment, or inventory purchase, working capital, construction or renovation, revolving lines of credit, and refinancing. This program has been in operation for nearly 50 years now, and over that time, it's helped Indian businesses secure over $2 billion worth of private loans, while maintaining one of the lowest loss rates among similar federal programs. We are really hoping to expand upon this program in the coming years. We just are looking at new opportunities. We aren't ready to announce anything yet, but it's definitely an area that we know it needs a lot of work in terms of just providing more avenues for access to capital. We want to plus up that number a lot, see what we can leverage, and really grow that program in the coming years. For our grant programs, we have a Division of Economic Development within OIED, which administers competitive grants to support Native entrepreneurs, broadband deployment, and business development feasibility studies, as well as the revitalization of tribal languages. We have several grant programs right now that I'll briefly describe each one. The one most relevant right now is our Native American Business Development Institute grant. This grant helps tribes weigh their risks to determine whether a project is worth pursuing and empower them to make informed decisions about their economic futures. Results from these studies can often help tribes persuade lenders and investors to provide financial backing to turn their ideas into reality. This grant is open now. We just recently announced it. The applications are due June 17 of 2022. And of course, we have more information on that and all of the programs available on our website. We also have a National Tribal Broadband Grant, which provides tribes the opportunity to receive funding to deploy or extend broadband services in their communities. We hope to be able to offer this grant again later this year. It's not yet been announced, and we know there are lots of other funding opportunities in the broadband space right now through other departments, but Interior continues to remain very interested in staying at the forefront of that too. Thank you for that link. We further have a Tribal Tourism Grant, which increases capacity for tribes to plan, develop, and manage tourism and related infrastructure in support of economic development. This includes Native Act support, grants to support tribal tourism feasibility studies, and or tribal tourism business plan development. We further have an Indian Business Incubators Program, which provides funds to establish and run business incubators that serve entrepreneurs who will provide products or services, again, in American Indian and Alaska Native communities. In addition to the Tribal Tourism Grant, we have Indigenous Tourism providing technical assistance to tribes in the areas of tourism planning, management, and product development, and our Living Languages Grant Program, which provides opportunities for tribes to receive funding to document and revitalize languages that are at risk. That's also another one that we're hoping to increase significantly in the years ahead, just given the incredible need to bolster support for maintaining tribal languages. So as awareness of these programs go and these services go, so does the need to expand technical assistance. We're currently providing technical assistance through grant training for pre-application training, grant writing, as well as business planning and various other services. It's another service that you can find more information on our website. Another upcoming update that we're excited about is the Buy Indian Act. The Buy Indian Act authorizes the Departments of Interior and Health and Human Services to purchase supplies, services, and certain kinds of construction equipment from qualified Native American vendors, or what's known as Indian Economic Enterprises. The department, through Indian Affairs, BIA, Bureau of Indian Education, has prioritized supporting Indian economic enterprises through the Buy Indian Act and plans to increase purchases from FY 2021 of $280 million in FY 2022. Indian Affairs is currently in the process of awarding new construction awards for 3 BIE schools to Indian small business economic enterprises. The implementation of the Buy Indian Act has been an evolutionary process. It was originally enacted in 1910. The department developed and implementing regulations in 2013 with an increased emphasis in Buy Indian Act usage during FY 2019. As a result, Buy Indian Act purchasing has increased from 124.4 million in FY 19 to 279.6 million in FY 21, which represents 59% of all Indian Affairs purchasing is directly supporting Indian enterprises. Our updated regulations are currently being developed according to consultation with Indian country. Some of those updates include eliminating barriers to Indian economic enterprises from fully competing on certain construction contracts, expanding Indian economic enterprises' ability to subcontract construction work consistent with other socioeconomic set-aside programs, and giving greater preference to Indian economic enterprises when a deviation from the Buy Indian Act is necessary. It's anticipated that these updated regulations over several years will result in up to 65% of all eligible Buy Indian Act purchasing, and will result in a steady increase of eligible Buy Indian Act obligations being awarded to Indian enterprises. We hope to have those final regulations out very soon. Some other opportunities we have are available through our Office of Trust Services, Division of Energy and Mineral Development. That division provides technical assistance, grants, capacity building, and marketing assistance to tribal mineral, renewable, and natural resource owners to support sustainable tribal economies through environmentally sound management of their resources. The Division of Energy and Mineral Development provides technical assistance to tribes to identify and implement opportunities to maximize their revenue streams for economic resource development. That includes through the assessment of resources quality and quantity, engineering assessments, including design, modeling, economic analyses, and more. Marketing through local, regional, and national sales forecasts and market forecasting, existing and future competitions, as well as opportunities and challenges. Financial assistance through short and long-term income streams, financial documents, potential lenders, government contracts, and other federal funding initiatives. And finally, working with the ILPG for loans and other loan guarantee programs, and working with local, regional, and national lending institutions. That division is currently a partner on 229 projects on 145 reservations through both technical assistance and awarded grants. In the last year of grant funding, which in FY 2020, $8.1 million was awarded. Also like to share a little bit about our interagency work through the White House Council on Native American Affairs. The White House Council on Native American Affairs has an Economic Development, Energy, and Infrastructure Committee that over the past year has focused on improving tribal access to federal resources, including access and utilization of funding through the American Rescue Plan and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or bill. The committee is co-led by the Departments of Commerce, Transportation, Energy, and the Small Business Administration, with membership from, of course, Interior, Housing and Urban Development, Treasury, Health and Human Services, Labor, EPA, and some other agencies. That committee meets once a month, so we can develop across agency coordination and execute coordinated efforts throughout our programs. Over the past year, this committee has supported interagency efforts for infrastructure that enables commerce and business, such as broadband. The committee has supported the organization of the 2021 National Tribal Broadband Summit that hopefully you were able to attend last fall, and if not, we're in very early stages of planning the next one. We helped coordinate technical assistance on the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program and the more recent White House Tribal Broadband Briefing on February 18th of this year. The committee has also coordinated technical assistance for ARP and bill funding by developing a central calendar of all interagency events related to those. You can find those through the White House Council on Native American Affairs website. I can provide, if you don't, that link may be not quite as obvious. I don't know, you see them on top of these links, but I can provide that later if folks are interested, if you don't see it immediately. The committee's cabinet level leadership hosted a tribal engagement session in January with several cabinet secretaries and had over 1,000 tribal leaders and other interested people registered. They shared what economic development and infrastructure related resources were available and heard recommendations from tribal leaders. They also supported last year's White House Tribal Nations Summit and anticipate having another one later this year, and we'll hope to share much more at that time. Just a few more points before I conclude. Of course, that I want to mention that Indian Affairs sees the value of Native CDFIs and the work being done throughout Indian country. It's our opinion that the technical assistance, the financial education provided to community members is a key to the successes of the businesses you support. As participants of our Indian Loan Guarantee and Loan Insurance Program, the likelihood of success further increases through the technical assistance provided, and we're grateful for your work. We also support the newly established priorities of the Native CDFI network and look forward to collaborating with NCN as you strive to grow and strengthen Native CDFIs through your policy advocacy, capacity building, and gaining additional access to capital. Our new Director of the Office of Indian Economic Development, I think I neglected to mention this earlier, but Anna LeBeau, who comes to us from the Native CDFI world, and she's fabulous, and we're so happy to have her. We expect to really put her expertise in this area to work and grow our work in that area. I was just on a call with her earlier. She may be on. I'm not quite sure if she's able to join us today. Anyway, she's great. We'll hear from her more later, perhaps on a following webinar. Finally, one last point I want to mention is that we're exploring ways to partner with private entities in order to gather capital that's accessible to tribes through public-private partnerships. So those partnerships may be in collaboration with federal funds, such as the Indian Loan Guarantee Program or other programs which require a percentage of matching funds from the tribe or tribal entity taking out the loan. We're hoping to explore opportunities for private funding to help support the tribal side of that, so we can just further grow the opportunities for capital in that area. We're kind of early on in that work right now, but I think it's a really exciting area to explore, and we hope to work on that more in the coming months and certainly years too. So I think that's a pretty good overview of what we have going on right now, and I'll stop there and see if folks have questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Deputy Assistant Secretary. As I mentioned in the chat, if you have questions, please place them in the chat box, or if you prefer, you can just unmute and ask your question directly. It's helpful. Most of you guys are Zoom veterans by now. You should know where the raise hand button is. So I can see most of you in one screen. So I'll keep flipping back and forth and try to get you in the order that you've raised your hands. So I don't see any questions at this point. I do have one, and encourage others to, while I ask mine, to put yours in as well. You've been in your current role almost a year now, and I'm curious, in overseeing all of the initiatives that Indian Affairs has focused on fostering economic development in Indian country. From your perspective, how can you see or how should Indian Affairs and Native CDFIs be working more closely together, more kind of hand in glove to make sure that what the department's doing is on point, but that also that you guys are staying informed on your end about the conditions on the ground. Obviously, with the pandemic, that takes on greater urgency than in normal days, just because there's so much churn and change happening in tribal communities. So can you comment just on how you see how collaboration can be deepened?
Sure, that's a really great point. I think it is really important for us to hear from you, in your expertise, what you're seeing, how that can contribute to our work. I couldn't agree more that this collaboration and communication is important. And we have perhaps a couple of opportunities coming up through the NAFOA conference and RES as well. We have folks going, I think our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, I believe, will be at both of those conferences. For sure, NOFOA, I'm not sure about Res. And I think our Director, Anna LeBeau, will be there as well. So I think informally, that's an opportunity for us to talk more. We definitely welcome these kinds of opportunities and informal communication as well. Our doors are always open. We're chock full of meetings every day, but we appreciate those opportunities to hear from folks. So yeah, just broadly speaking, I think that would be great for us to collaborate more. And I am really hoping that Anna in particular can provide a great link to the Native CDFI community. When we were hiring her, we loved seeing that part of her resume. So we really hope to learn more from her about that as well.
Thank you. I believe, Pete, you have a question?
Yeah, the on your BIA loan guarantee and loan insurance program, annually we get an allocation, and then if we don't use it, they have to draw it back. Is that going to be increased and made a permanent increase so that they can expand their reach with that?
I hope so. I don't know if I can quite say that yet, but we, looks like it's coming. Yeah, we certainly hope to increase, and anytime we can make programs permanent is great. So yeah, I just can't say for sure, but that would be a great thing.
Okay.
Supportive of that.
So we have a question from Dave, who says that back in late 2020, Congress passed the Indian Community Economic Enhancement Act, which, as you well know, took years to get across the finish line, and that the Northwest tribes, AT&I, passed a resolution encouraging that work commence in terms of implementation of the specific measures contained within the act. Can you provide any updates on where the department, where the Bureau is on implementing the key provisions within that legislation?
Sure, that's a good question. And I believe our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Gary, got asked about that at his recent Senate Committee on Indian Affairs hearing. So you may have seen some there in his testimony and in questioning at the hearing. I think it's something that we are still working on implementing. It's actually, I mentioned the White House Council on Native American Affairs Committee. That's kind of one of the items it's tasked with. So we're kind of working on the interagency portions there. I think we have a lot more to do. I think it's kind of the short answer there. We need to ramp it up, but it's on the very immediate to-do list that we're working on implementing that more right now.
Ian?
Yes, Robin.
Thank you, Deputy Assistant Secretary, for spending this time with us. As I was introduced privately with you, I'm the National Policy Chair for NCN, sit on the Board of Directors. We have several of our Board of Directors here, all of our members here. Just want to thank you for taking time. Would like you to think about what is it that NCN can do in the year ahead, how we can help you, and Secretary Holland, because we are cheering for the success of this DOI administration for obvious reasons. I wanted to point out that our Native CDFI members, we have a maturing industry. We were quite young, of course, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But on our policy priorities specific to the Department of Interior, we'd like to suggest ways that we can step together and forward over the next year easily. For example, our Native CDFIs would love, we are experts in financial literacy. Many of our orgs are doing youth financial literacy. One of the items that was pointed out by our membership back in February when we updated our policy priorities for 2022 was to engage directly with the Department of Interior on delivering youth financial literacy to the 200, I think you have 230 or so BIA responsible schools. We would hope that we could find meaningful ways that our Native CDFIs in the areas or in the regions of where those schools are located, that we could be engaged to be delivering on-site financial literacy in those schools. If there's an MOU, et cetera, we're providing those services. ongoing. So getting our native CDFI talent into the school program would be wonderful. And another thing is that we enacted one of our main priorities is to push and be a part of the solution for IEED, which is kind of exciting to have one of our own native CDFIs leading that area. We would like to be a conduit to facilitate the IEED programming across the country, because we're everywhere. Well, at least in 27 states for sure. And so those would be the two major things that maybe in the next 12 months, we could take some substantive steps to getting our native CDFIs in front of those classrooms that the BIA is responsible for the schools, and taking some substantive steps so that our native CDFIs are just automatically facilitating the IEED programming. So that would be my two.
Thank you. Those are both great. I saw that the financial literacy point, and I think that's such a great thought to bring it to our youth, really setting them up for success as they come into adulthood, just getting them on the right path. I think that's a really key point. And I apologize for not knowing this already, but I wondered if have you already been in contact with BIE on this?
Not yet, correct,
Okay.
Pete? These are newly, and so Ian and I are in DC, and Pete, of course, we would love to take some substantive steps in the next year at least, because funding's great. I don't want to get a whole bunch of emails, but we're delivering financial literacy as a normal part of our business operations and our TA funding. So I don't want that to be the barrier. I think if we could get to the table to figure out how we can engage natives, especially in the Southwest, right, and in the Northwest as well, where our native CDFIs are the go-to trainers, and get into those schools and have a presence, have native presence in those schools. And who knows, we might hire them after they graduate. That's usually how it goes. Some of our most successful jobs and employees in our industry come from folks that came through our family members that came through financial literacy. So if you could think about that in terms of ways that the Native CDFI network can facilitate our members to be in your schools, and for us to have, maybe it's a roundtable with IEED. What I'm saying is we want to facilitate your existing programs, and then of course be with you to be in a position to be able to make any substantive recommendations to make those programs even more powerful. So thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for those additions. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I think that sounds like a fantastic collaboration with the schools. I'd love to connect with BIE to this conversation and kind of talk about how we get to that point potentially. But yeah, I totally agree. I think there are lots of wins for the students. Just that sounds great. And also on your point about working with OIED, IEED is now OIED because we took out the energy development, but we get used to saying the same acronyms, right? But yeah, I think a roundtable sounds like a great idea. I'm sure Anna has ideas on how to collaborate. We certainly welcome that. So absolutely, on both of your points, let's talk more.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sean, who stole my thunder. He's got a question on public-private partnerships. Sean?
Go ahead, Ian. All right.
All right,
go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So Sean was wondering, are there current examples or best practices for Indian Affairs working with Native CDFIs and or tribes to leverage public-private partnerships and social impact investing towards economic development? And I guess this kind of a follow-up to that is, can you paint a little bit more detail on the direction you guys want to take this? Like, what's your vision for public-private partnerships, and where do you see Native CDFIs fitting in?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I don't think I can fully answer it right now. Is my caveat to that. and I also want to credit Wheezy, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Garrett, because he's really has a lot of vision on this and is pushing this initiative forward. But I think as a whole outlook, we're kind of in early stages of it. I think there may be some best practices already happening, but for us, it's kind of creating a new path in some areas. So we're having a lot of conversations, reaching out to lots of folks, and figuring out how we can do this, what those best practices are as well. But it's a little bit early, so we're very interested in it. We're trying to figure out, all the right partners, kind of what all of the measures we need to take and within the federal government, how we can kind of get that in place, what needs to happen there. I hope that we can share more, and perhaps Wheezy can come back and provide an update at some point when we're a bit farther down the road. But I know it's something we're very excited about, but it's kind of early stages at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that issue alone could merit, a webinar on its own. That's a huge opportunity, I think, and it requires, I think, native CDFIs to be at the table in terms of informing how those ought to be done, and who should be bringing funding to the table, and who should be helping orchestrate these partnerships, and to whose benefit. So up next we have Dave Castillo, who's a native CDFI leader from Arizona. So Dave.
Hi, good morning. Thanks also for spending some time with us. We are a BIA loan guarantee, loan assurance program lender. We love the program. The folks at the Bureau who our counterparts or assist in that process have been fantastic out of the Albuquerque office. I just want you to know that. My question is there a list? Can we get a list of approved lenders that are approved for the BIA loan guarantee program? And I mean conventional lenders. And the reason I ask is because, we've got, native CDFIs are doing as much as they can to raise capital and deploy it to serve Indian country. But we can only do so much. And we really need new lenders to come to the table and originate deals, or partner with us, or participate with us. And in my history, it's been very difficult to find those banks that are willing to do that. I usually say, when asked, what can we do? I said, well, what you can do is lead. And what leading means is you become an approved lender through the BIA program, or an approved lender through the HUD 184 program, which means that you will be required, to be an approved lender. If you're going to do it right, you're going to have to dedicate resources. You're going to have to hire, retain, attract talent, and you're going to have to meet production goals. That's how you lead. And if you're not going to lead, then you either need to get out of the way or follow us and make sure that you're investing in native CDFIs. But first and foremost, we'd love them to lead. We'd love these organizations to become approved lenders under the BIA program. And, the things I've heard over the years is, why would I go through the brain damage of figuring out how to do a deal in Indian country when I could get what I need from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency by serving Hispanics or African Americans? Or we will never originate a loan in Indian country, but we're happy to buy the guaranteed portion of the existing debt, which means that you end up carrying all the risk, and we get the risk-free money, or the part of the deal. So CRA is going to be coming up, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity to really push these lenders and show who are the good actors and who is making commitments to Indian country through these programs and who is not. There are a couple notable mergers that are going to be coming up, and we'd love to see some community benefit agreements that reflect their commitment to these programs, and injecting new capital and originating new loans using their resources in Indian country. So I think just having that list of lenders would go a long way. And again, I'm certainly happy to sing the praises of the program. It's been fantastic for us. And again, Alsace Laframboise and Jerry Ryburn and the whole crew out there at the Albuquerque office have been just fantastic. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for that. I will definitely pass that along to our team too. It's always really wonderful to hear great things about our team. Excellent points overall. I mean, yeah, I can't tell you how much I hear about lenders and their inability to work with Indian country and just, falling short, generally conventional lenders. In terms of the list, I will bring that back to our team and see if that's something we have or can share, I'll just have to check with folks. I know sometimes that we can, in the federal government, we can get a little bit of, we have to tread carefully on compiling, certain lists, characterizing folks in certain ways versus others. But I think, taking your point, I think we should look at ways we encourage good actors and, encourage other folks to join that path and, being able to identify which ones we have worked with. I mean, I think there are ways to do that for sure. So.
Yeah, you guys be the good cop. I can be the bad cop. I had trouble doing that. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, Kathryn, I had a question on the Buy Indian Act. You mentioned that the final regulations are coming out very soon. Do you know, or do you have a sense of what once the regulations come out, what the outreach plan is going to be to Indian country, and where do native CDFIs fit into that? This has never really achieved its intended goal. It's been around for a long time, and we're cautiously optimistic that the new regulations are going to finally, have that level of accountability in there that ensures that the act can maximize positive benefits for tribal communities. So can you just speak to kind of what's next after the regulations come out?
Sure. Absolutely, we need to do a lot of outreach and want to promote that as much as we can. I definitely think that there are ways we can work together on that. Can't say that we have like an exact rollout plan at this time. I think it's going to kind of, once we have it out there, we have a lot of efforts from our program staff in that area that they're going to be undertaking. But on a national level, I think we can certainly talk more about, kind of just this more global promotion of it that might work with us talking more directly. But yeah, I'd also kind of encourage talking with our direct staff who administer that every day. I think this is going to be a follow-up conversation, I guess, is the answer to that. Is I think we might just need to talk more with the folks implementing it. But we definitely want to make this program more valuable to Indian country. As you said, it's just not lived up to its potential, right? Like we could do so much more and we want to. It's one of our big priorities in the next quarter. So we hope to have a lot more on that soon.
Ian, maybe we could use the Buy Indian Act on the financial literacy at the BIA schools. I thought.
Yeah.
Deputy Assistant Secretary, I also wanted to put on your radar for the next year, 2 years, one of the areas that has huge opportunity for economic development that's been on the radar of NCN for since 2019, I believe, Pete, is new market tax credits. Very, very successful program for the rest of the country. Very few new market tax credit awards to native CDEs, native CDFIs on tribal lands or off tribal lands in the hands of native CDEs or CDFIs. But one of the areas that we might explore with the Department of Interior is for DOI to launch a training and technical assistance opportunity at DOI separate from Treasury. Right now, we're kind of cubbyholed to Treasury in terms of trying to break that open for tribes and tribal organizations and native CDFIs, et cetera. It might be something that DOI and Bureau of Indian Affairs could lead in just having conversations and starting to bring capacity building together to native CDFIs and CDEs around new market tax credits to lead around that going forward, because I'm not sure if you know about new market tax credits, but basically they are getting funded. They're very bipartisan, $2 to $5 billion a year, bipartisanly supported. And these tax credits are an incredible instrument, financing instrument that brings capital. I'll say Republicans love it because it makes bankers rich. Democrats love it because it drives capital to underserved areas, except ours. And I think that this administration and under your leadership and ONA's leadership also that we could start having conversations at DOI, at our main trust responsibility agency, around new market tax credits, separate from whatever Treasury is doing or what's happening there. I think it would be an amazing topic for NCN and DOI to kick off, to start having conversations, start building technical assistance and capacity building around that topic that's going to lead to huge investments that our tribal communities need. You can pretty much use new market tax credits for anything except a casino and a liquor store. So everything else, so think about malls and schools and et cetera, businesses. We would love for that to be a priority at DOI under this administration, to at least start the conversation and start helping us and engaging with us to move the dime on new market tax credits toward our lands. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I did not have that on my radar exactly. So for us at DOI, so I appreciate that. Definitely something I want to look into more. And I know you said separate from Treasury, but of course we do work with our Treasury colleagues on some matters, and I would love to hear more from them about how they think that's going, and see how we can separately build off of that.
Follow-up comment on that. What we would love to do as the Native CDFI Network, I serve as the interim executive director of the CDFI network, and Robin is in DC most part of the year. But what we would love to do is offer you an opportunity to connect with our regions. We have 9 regions throughout the United States that pretty much mirror Indian country. So maybe working with Anna, yourself, developing an advisory panel, developing a roundtable to where we can bring forward our initiatives for 2022, our policy priorities, and really having maybe learning, both ways of how we can work better with you and you can work better with us, and just more of a briefing on, we can learn more about each other to a certain degree and how we can benefit each other. And I'd love to be able to organize that either in the summer or maybe in the fall when we have our annual our national gathering of all of our native CDFIs, bringing in a group a few days early. I don't know if you'd be open to that, or if you have certain protocols that have to be followed that we can work out before our events happen in the fall.
Absolutely. I think that sounds fantastic. We definitely have certain protocols to follow in the federal government, but we can get there. And an ongoing advisory relationship is much harder than kind of, let's sit down together for a briefing, meeting, summit, something like that is easier, I will say. But I would really love to hear a lot more. I mean, the topics everyone is bringing up are extremely helpful for me to hear about. And I know, we have lots of work going in some of these areas and maybe not in others so much, like the new market tax credits. So absolutely, this is incredibly helpful. And I want to hear more, and we can share more. Anna can share more, about her programs. We can bring Weezy, of course, too, in that time. And I'd love to do that. But yeah, we'll just have to talk a little bit more about how we can set that up and in what format.
Okay.
But yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, and ideally we could do a midsummer policy roundtable for the summer prior to our fall event. That's an opportunity. Maybe we can gear it around when Robin is in DC and bring a group in for that. No, I think the more that we can have the dialogue of what the work that NCN does and how we have 9 regions throughout the United States, and how all 9 regions could be just a conduit for you to reach the Native communities. We're doing all the financial literacy. We're doing a lot of work around in developing, financial institutions within the Native communities. So I just see this being a natural fit with some of your priorities and with our priorities. We just need to get to the table, sit down, come up with a plan, and especially having Anna there, that was a blessing that she moved over. So I'd love to visit with Robin and our policy committee and seeing when we can maybe get to DC and get to work on this. we're kind of like the annoying cousin sometimes. We're going to be at your front door sooner or later. So we'll get to know you sooner or later.
No, that sounds great. We'd be a welcome cousin. We'd appreciate the visit.
So do we have any other questions for Kathryn? We want to be mindful of time. We're getting close to the end of the hour. Wanted to make sure that we're sharing all the important messages that the Native CDFI leadership want to share, and also give folks the opportunity to ask any last questions. And we're definitely going to take you up on your suggestion of having Wizipan back for another for a webinar in the future, as well as Anna. I'm really interested to get her perspective specifically about how does she see Indian Affairs' role in partnering with and helping CDFIs expand the great work that they do. So do we have any other questions from the audience before we wrap up here today? All right. Well, thank you so much, Deputy Assistant Secretary. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today, and appreciate you filling in somewhat last minute for Wizipan, and we're really excited for the collaboration moving forward.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I guess, Wizi's loss was my gain in terms of the ability to be here and hear from you all. And I really look forward to talking more. I think there is a lot that we can gain from collaborating more. We'll definitely do that in kind of the various ways we've outlined. And I hope that we can also get Anna and Wizi in front of you as well, as you mentioned, Ian. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending today, and have a good weekend, and stay tuned for news probably next week or soon thereafter about our future NCN webinars. Have a good day.
Thank you.